So, I'm finally back to my Terminator series. I started this several weeks ago and then I took some breaks, so I didn't actually get to finally talk about Terminator 2. The reason I'm doing this series is just because I've never seen any of the Terminator movies before, and someone gave me the collection of all them, and I thought, oh, why don't I go through them all? So I started with the first one, so you can watch that review now. But going into this series, I had heard all the sequels past Terminator 2 were bad. And I've heard that the second one is great. I didn't really hear anything about the first one. And after seeing this movie, it really makes sense why I heard those things. This movie is a perfect movie for what kind of movie this is. And what I mean by that, and I said kind of that same kind of sentiment in my Godzilla vs. King Kong review, where that movie, if I was to sit down and show you the movie, if you told me that's just a stupid giant monster fighting movie, it's not a smart, well-written movie, and I would go, yeah, you're right, but that is the best possible movie you could have made with what you had. And it was good for what kind of movie it is. So you're not going to get some deep message or anything like that. No. But for what kind of movie that was, it was brilliant. In its own way, right? This is the same way. I feel the same way about this movie that I would feel a movie like that. This is not a smart movie. In some ways it is, but in some ways it isn't. But it's a really good movie, and this is one of the best action movies ever made. I think so, honestly. Out of all the action movies I've seen, this is one of the best I've ever seen. Up there with Die Hard and stuff. But this movie was fantastic. Because I really didn't like the first Terminator movie. I thought it was okay. Like, it was really good for the time, but if I watched it, but what I have to understand is there are some movies that are really good for the time and they still hold up now, and then there are some movies that are just great for the time, but they don't hold up now. So there's the difference between those two, and I think this is one of the movies where it's really good for the time. It still holds up now. From the opening shot, where where one of our kind of Terminator robots steps on a skull, and you see that first special effect, I was impressed, because the special effects, while great for the time, still hold up now and they look phenomenal. I mean, this is my first time seeing the movie, and I was like, wow. And this movie's really well shot. This movie is directed by James Cameron. Now, if you don't know who James Cameron is the director of Titanic, Avatar, True Lies, The Abyss, and a bunch of other movies like Aliens. And I think out of all the movies I've seen, The Abyss is my favorite, but this is his best. Aliens is pretty great. I don't know if this is better than it. I think this might be slightly better than Aliens. I'm not really sure. I guess they're about the same, honestly. But because they both do what each other does really good. But I think this movie is a lot more fun than Aliens, because it's a lot more smarter than Aliens, I would say. I don't know. Maybe we should get off this debate, but I think that this is a really good movie. It's really well paced. I was never bored. Like, every second of this movie moves so quick, so fast, and I was like, wow. I mean, this is so effortless. They make this movie feel so effortless, but yet it's so complex, and it's so good. It takes the element. It makes sense why I never heard much about the first movie, because I think the first movie when it came out was probably great, but it's not as fun as this movie. It's not as timeless as this movie is. I mean, sure, this movie's set in 1985, but like, for the most part, it's pretty timeless. But and it's a fun movie, and I really like what they did with the T-800 in this movie. Because in the first movie, he's just this unstoppable killing machine. When this movie has a character arc, because he's protecting John Connor, he has to kind of learn to grow some humanity, which is such a great character arc for this robot to deal with. Has to learn humanity and learn to care about human lives while still having to be this killing machine. And it's a really great character arc for like such a simple idea. But this was just a fun movie. It did everything you want it to do. It's perfect. Like, sure, it's not the most well written, smart movie. But but this is a well shot, well acted, put together movie with a great score and all that, and I can't think of anything wrong with this movie. But yet some people I know there's I think this is a problem with cinephiles. A lot of them will look at movies like this and go, that's not a very good movie because it doesn't have some smart detailed themes or anything like that. It's just a dumb action movie. But I think the important thing to note about this movie, you can make a great movie for what kind of movie this is, or you can make a great movie for with those kind of themes and stuff. But this is not that, and you both can work, both can exist. No, one's not taking the other away, and as long as they're both good movies, I don't really care. I think this is a great movie, and everyone should watch it. If you love action movies and stuff like that, and you love sci-fi like I do, you gotta watch this movie. 10 out of 10.